And that sacrament felt like a new kind of bedrock. It felt like an ordaining, and it is. An Orthodox wedding is an ordaining of a king and queen of a household. What followed after the Stoic and reverent ceremony, the proclamation of Jesus Christ, was ecstasy. It was pure ecstasy. Be surrounded by family on both sides now. I'm joining of two families, both of blood, and shared struggle. And there was a moment where throughout the fray of it all, where I was exhausted as usual, I saw that little gap beyond time and space. Be amongst all the speeches, amongst all the fanfare, amongst all the celebrating and dancing, and my cynicism died. I felt no reason to be cynical any longer, to be surrounded by a whole family like that, to lift us up in our time of matrimony. And it came to a point where, after the celebrations were done, I had to come to the Drake Hotel with my wife, and I had to go find us food as they were not doing any room service. And I had to walk for 15 minutes to find us food and sit in a bar while I waited and sipping a martini, thinking about royal elements of Chicago, a city that I love dearly and have written an open love letter to for many reasons. Gazing upon a gazebo just on the shore, right in the hotel room at the Story Drake Hotel, a hotel from a different America. Not only an old America, but a different America. And I had the privilege the next day of walking up and down Michigan Avenue with my wife, my friends, and my parents. And a phenomena that only has happened several times in my life occurred, where you look down a long road, and at the end of it, not only do you see what is down there in the physical, but you see viscerally, you see ethereally something else, as if it's a portal to elsewhere, as if there are two things there at the same time. I remember this dream of a grove. I remember this dream of a sword and a stone. Doubling as a cathedral, I remember this phenomena. The physical and the spiritual. You can see places where there's a lack of separation there, and this is one of them. And it was nothing but pure bliss. And it made me realize something that I had suspected all along, that the dream is more real than life itself. Upon getting out of the dark city, arrived in France, and came to a honeymoon in Paris and Rouen. Paris does indeed breed an existential crisis, like many people talk about, and it's easy to see why when you approach the river and you see the monuments, the pillars of French achievement, you're shocked that anything so beautiful can exist as created by man. And at that point, if one isn't spiritually grounded, one isn't rooted in the faith, you can see why people spin into madness in Paris. These existential crises paired with nicotine and alcohol and erratic behavior. Why? Because they've seen the most beautiful thing ever created by man. And now what do? Where do they go from there? Is everything a come down from after that? Can they go back each time and time again, and feel the same things? Do they have an unconditional love for Paris, or are they swept away in infatuation? It's impossible to know for sure for some people. Many people have had the same conundrum with New York, where they come to New York and they make it in New York and they realize less so than Paris. That yes, it's grandiose, yes, it's intense, but is it really something that can be conquered? Do people go and actually conquer New York? Can you conquer chaos? Can you conquer the beast? You can make a life for yourself in New York, sure. You can be part of it. But some people are left thinking to themselves, how can I conquer anything here? Do I enjoy this fight, or is it the fight that I was told to want? And therein lies the existential crisis of a different kind, a far grimmer one laced with less beauty. And upon leaving France and arriving in England, I'm now feeling the call to the north more than ever. I feel the more and more that I walk these streets, the more and more that I pray within the confines of this island, the more I read, the more I write, the more I train, the more I pray. And looking in the mirror more and more and seeing something I recognize again. The detour from who I am is almost complete. Away from San Francisco. And now, I can march north. I'm in an abysmal place, a dead place, but still, with the amount of rain in this place. The fact that I finished growing up here all those years ago, how can I not feel at home, despite my blood not coming from this land? And this dream of this grove, this dream of the sword and the stone, has called me to the north of England, to Scotland. And what will I see there? I don't know. I have my suspicions. But they're suspicions all the same. I wrote the following: remove the real world so I can see, feel, and hear the background world. I need to know where I really stand, and this malaise of white noise is nowhere to live. And I like large parties. They're so intimate. You're most aware of the background world in fully conscious simulation by known background noise or by a blank slate environment. I don't think I've ever lived somewhere dark and cold enough to really see it and feel it without fail. The Highlands are calling. I'm not from there, and there isn't a drop of Celtic blood flowing through my veins. And yet, I saw their value just out of reach from my vantage point atop Stirling Castle 11 years ago. Atop from Arthur's seat 11 years ago. It's an odd parallel that most haven't experienced, for reasons both of not being called to it and not living in an era when it is not common. To harness a martial discipline alongside one's spiritual disciplines. You can't kill the enemy you can't see, both in combat and in one's spiritual life. To think this is limited to one's eyesight is to truly walk the world already dead. Let me see my own blood drop on the snow. Below, I pray to God to make my soul as white as. Let me begin in full, from dark Gothic city to freezing howling highlands, the true preparation for battles and the worst of the fray that lie ahead. I don't know what I'm doing here. I do and I don't. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know it's not just about me, which makes it so much more worthwhile. But I know the main battle for me will be within, in the backdrop of an environment that can shape me best. And from there, only God knows. Good night. Good storms. God bless. Thank you.